Hello, welcome again, and we'll be covering on workbook and worksheet. We already talked a little bit about the idea workbook and worksheet, but we'll repeat it since we'll be needing to cover it in depth using the selecting worksheet, rearranging, deleting, copying, and how to manipulate data when they are in the different worksheets. Now let's start. With the first paragraph, we say by default, workbook each workbook include one worksheet. Now let's try that. It's yes. Once yes, let me come here, and I have book 1 and book 2. Let's assume I'm creating a new workbook. I can create a new workbook by using shortcut Control N. It's used to create a new file in any program. Now, when I'm using Excel, when I create Control N, we now have it's already book 2. Yes, it's another book 2 since the second one I did not save it. But you can see here it's only included one sheet, or we can call it worksheet. Then these worksheets are usually helpful since we can use them to store data in different days, to store data in different months, and then we can have one sheet which can bring about the summary of all the sheets, which it with the summary sheet, it can be bringing in all the summary from other sheets. Let me show you an example, and then we'll go on with how manipulation of sheets is. Then with this current sheet, we can rename it summary, and let's assume we're creating a workbook which will be dealing about sales. Then in sheet 1 we can have January 2022, press enter, and then we can have February 2022, press enter. While I'm doing this, you should take note that with creating a worksheet, you'll be needing to go bottom of your Excel and finding this button plus on the bottom, and once you hover your cursor a little bit for some seconds, you can see it's saying new sheet. If you create here, you press that button, you left click, it will create another sheet, and then by renaming it, we will need to double left click that name, and then you can type your name. After you type your name, you press enter, and then Excel will save that sheet name. So let's go on how manipulative Excel could be. So we could have a date here. Let me show you creating the same format for all the sheets that we'll be dealing with. For example, we want the January 2022, February, and March to be summed in summary, but also at the same time, the January, February, and March be our sales for that particular month. So we need to be able to see the sales in January, the sales in February, and the sales in March. Then thus we have to deal with Excel, with multiple sheets. Then to deal with multiple sheets with Excel, we are able to select more than one sheet and be able to deal with more than one sheet, insert data in more than one sheet at the same time, and all those kind of things. Now let's try this. I'll select January, I'll press Control, and then I'll select all the sheets that I want to deal with. Obviously, with all cells, it will here cells financial year, let's say 2022. That will be the heading. On below, we'll have date or payment date. I think it will sound better. Payment date, and then we'll have a description. We'll have amount, and then we'll have status. Is it paid? Is it not paid? That kind of thing. With what I have done here, since I've selected more than one worksheet here below, the effect that I have written, it will take effect in all the sheets, that is January 2022, February 2022, and March 2022. So when we started feeding data, let's have a demo data 3 in each month. Let's say here, let's start since it's January. I'll just use October since it's easier. I'll use the October here, description here. let me use a laptop. Let's say someone bought a laptop today, price, let's say 1 million, 123, 123, status, let's say paid. And another thing, let me go to my date picker, let's say the second date, a printer, let's say 500, not paid yet, let's just say paid, all paid, paid. Okay, the third entry, let's add it on 31st of October. What have we bought? Let's say a monitor. At the price, let's say 90,000. There, and then it's paid. Well, since I'm demonstrating, I'll only be needing, well, these data will have copied itself. Since we have already selected all the 3 worksheets, this data will appear from from January 2022 will be appearing in all worksheets. Data in sheet January 2022, February, and March, we can go view the data in each sheet. Well, you can notice the date has been dropped since the date picker can only drop data within that particular sheet. So let me add the date for each sheet, and then I'll show you how we can use the formula to add data across, and we can have it in the summary sheet. You can see the data is the same in all the sheets, but let's just get the concept of how we can use multiple sheets to add the data. So now let's say we need to format these data. I'll select all the 3 sheets so we can format all 3 sheets all at once. So I'll add borders first, all borders, and then I'll highlight, I will center the title. I'll highlight the title and then merge and center. And from there, I'll format the amount so that it reads with decimals and it has the comma all after 3 zeros. Then you can see from there. And another thing, yes, let me select all the other sheets. Let me add so we can have a total for that particular month, and then go to auto sum, add it, and here below we can add total. Now, since that is all set, let me go to each sheet to confirm that data is well written. In January 2022, you can see it's formatted. On February, you can see it's formatted, and it's already it's added that it have the total for the month. And in March, it's also the same as to the 2 previous sheets we covered. Now, I added these datas and I formatted all these datas using just one action. I had selected all the 3 worksheets and performed the action on all 3 worksheets. Now that's what we are dealing with. But let's assume I need the summary. I need the summary of all the months. Let's assume we are needing of a total cells in all 3 months. And then from total, we can have from January, I can take the total for January and bring it to the summary. And I can have another total in February, bring it in summary. And lastly, we can have total in March and bring it in summary. Now that's how helpful having more than one worksheet can help. Now from the summary, we can calculate anything that we need. We can calculate the average of all 3 months. We can calculate anything that we need depending on how the work process it will be. Now let's go back to Excel and see how we can deal with works. Now selecting the worksheet is already what we have already done here. We can select more than one worksheet if the action that we want to do can affect all the worksheets that are being selected. Rearranging the worksheet. Let's assume when we were creating the worksheet, January was the last one on the series of the worksheets. By rearranging it, you just left click the name of the sheet and then you bring it to the across where you want to drop it, you want it to appear. So if I drop it in front of summary in February 2022, it will appear there and the series it will be looking good depending on how you want to rearrange your Excel sheet. Deleting the worksheet. That's one, it's pretty much simple. I'll use a new sheet, I'll create a new sheet You can add data to it, but to delete it, you can just right click and have several options, which is include delete, and then you can delete there and it will disappear from your workbook. Another action here, it's copying the worksheet. This one I'll demonstrating using another worksheet. I'll create another worksheet and we want to copy all the content, let's say in January. I can just right click and I can say move or copy, and then since it's on move or copy, I can have move to end to another worksheet. Once I say that, we can say create a copy. It will, when we say create a copy, it will only copy the data, it won't move. So move to the end, it has created another sheet called January 2022 parenthesis 2. That's showing we have copied these data. But we can also copy data across multiple Excel workbook. For example, here, and then I can go here. We are only dealing to book, so we are only dealing workbook and worksheet. From here, we can have to book 2. This book 2 has only one sheet, and the book 2 here, it's this one on the left. Now, once I say I want to copy it or to move it to workbook 2, I can say create a copy so that it doesn't move the sheet entirely from the previous workbook which it is originated from. So once I say create a copy, and on the reminder, it's totally on entirely a different workbook. Once I press OK here, it will copy that entire worksheet to another workbook. But you can see on that first original workbook, it still remains a copy of it. But if we wanted to move it, we could move it that way. So that's the copying and or moving of worksheet. Next in the video series, we'll be covering about entering datas. But on the worksheets, let's end here, but we'll cover more once we started dealing with formula and everything that we'll be dealing with. Depending on your business process, it will be required to have more than one worksheet. And we can deal by having one more worksheet, more than one worksheet, depending on months, or we can have them be representing days. All activities which will be done in a day can be presented in a single worksheet, or can be presented, all the activities in a month can be presented in one worksheet, and we can have a summary like I've showed here. Thank you.